Welcome you on the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. I am Ashish Ogle from Department of Humanities. So we today actually discuss about the very important topic, get continued what we have discussed in the last video. That is actually another part of the evolution of public administration. So in evolution of public administration, as I discussed with you, that we see the discipline has started its journey from 1887. Since that time, actually a many number of ups and downs has been experienced by the subject, and accordingly we do have divided the whole of its journey into the 5 different stages, in which already we have discussed about actually the particular 2 stages. Okay, now today actually I am going to discuss with the 3rd stage, that is the era of challenge. So I am actually directly continue with that of the particular era of challenge early. Again we will have the subsequent part for the same evolution of the public admission, then actually that will be the whole of the topic get completed. So now today we starts with that of the era of challenge. So let's see here. So era of challenge that was being started from 1938 and running up to the 1947. So what was that particular era? So as actually we have seen, okay, into the last stage, that was the 2nd stage, in which the principles of public administration, a lots of number of the discipline has theories and the principles get actually started enumerated in that. And in this way, whatever the principles and theories had started actually building or the formation in that particular subject, that was irrespective of what kinds of the actually relevancy or any other kinds of the basis. These all are the principles on a large scale were actually introduced over here. So basically, afterward, up to the 1938, when the adequate amount of the principles had been actually included in that subject, now the 3rd actually stage comes that we call as the era of challenge. The name itself reflect. The era of challenge, if I say that actually say what? The number of disciplines having the theories and whatever the principles now in this particular stage get challenged by the other scholars. So let's see what happens. The main theme during this stage was the advocacy of the human relation behavior approach to the study of the public administration. So very great thing actually we have seen during that time, because in 1938 only there was a very great approach had been introduced, and to what actually we called as the human relation behavioral approach. So human relation means what? So very simple thing, when actually the principles was actually introduced or number of actually the theories has been actually delineated in that particular 2nd stage in the public administration. So in this time, whatever this all the principles has been introduced, that principles have do not do consider to the humans of the organization as of the human, and there is no any aspects of the behavior in their principles has been considered. And due to what actually they do only consider to that of the particular humans as of the material, mere the material. And that's why whatever the particular principles we have seen during the 2nd stage, they were mere a kind of the scientific way and had no relevancy actually as we required for any of the organization. So what happens? Let's see, I'm actually continue. So a main theme come when the advocacy for the human relation and the behavioral approach was started over here. I'm actually continuing. Let's see here. Both defining pillars of the public administration were challenged. It was argued that administration cannot be separated from the politics because the political nature of the political role. So first of all, the most important actually advocacy we have seen by the different kinds of the scholars are there. They have said the public administration cannot be separated from the political science because of actually its political character, and without the political science, the public administration cannot be get survived. And that was the very foremost actually we can say the challenge comes before the public administration during the 3rd stage. Let's see, I'm actually continue. The idea of the politics administration dichotomy, so that actually was rejected. So because actually the very simple thing, there was no any possibility that public administration can be separated from the politics, and that's why that was actually completely rejected in this particular 3rd stage. The principle of the administration were challenged and criticized on the ground that have the lack of scientific validity and the universal relevancy. So as I already have said, a very important thing, whatever the principles has been actually delineated during the 2nd stage, this all the principles have to consider to the humans as of the material, and because they have to consider to the human as the material, so that they have more focus to identify the universality instead of the application on the particular situations. And that's why when actually all the theories, when in reality been applied over the different kinds of the organization in different situations, they have given no any particular expected results. And that's why the particular all the kind of the principles have been completely lack of the scientific validity and the universality also. That was actually the challenge was occurs over here. Hence, they were dubbed as the proverb, okay, and naturalistic fallacies. That was the problem occurs here. Are you getting me? So actually, all the whatever principles has been actually deleted, they all were called as the proverbs. It means these are those kinds of the sentences which gives us the expressions instead of, okay, exactly in realistic manner can actually explain the situations. And number two, they are called as the naturalistic philosophy. Okay, so that was a very great criticism we have seen over the public admission was started. Let's see, I'm actually continue here. So the principal approach to the organizational analysis was criticized as a mechanistic approach due to its emphasis on the formal structure of organization and neglect of the socio-psychological aspect of the organizational behavior. So the rules, regulations and the formal structure was become highly emphasized during that particular second stage. And actually they do not have taken into the consideration to the particular psychological aspect of the organizational behavior. And that's why that actually whatever the principles has delineated, actually they all have lost its basic, we can say, relevancy or the expectations for what they had established. That was the actually problem we have seen. The next. In the era of challenge, actually when we just continue during that time, actually very greatest we can say the challenges occurs when the Hawthorne studies getting started. So the Hawthorne studies which was getting started during the 1926. Okay, the most important personality actually who delineated that actually Hawthorne studies has been started, that was Mr. Okay, I must say Alton Mayo. Let's see, we just go with the running matter and then actually that will be give you better understanding. Hawthorne studies which was running from 1924 up to the 1932 that conducted under the leadership of the Alton Mayo shook the foundation of the principles approach to organizational analysis by the demonstrating the role of the informal organization in determining the organizational efficiency. So what was that? Actually, I just likely to explain first. So Hawthorne studies which was carried on by the Alton Mayo, that was a very great initiative. Okay, that was the first instance when the human were and the human psychology were get studied. Okay, so what we have seen, just like as an example where in the second stage all the scholars were completely focused over to identify the best way to practice, best way to outcome, okay, have the outcome and the maximum actually we can say the efficiency from the administration. On the other hand, Alton Mayo was the person actually who do introduce one of the very different kinds of the concept. He say the humans are very, we can say, basically are influenced from the feelings. They need the ventilation therapy, and even actually they must be, okay, they must be actually treated as the human actually. And accordingly, a number of kind of different experiments actually performed by him on the basis of the human behavior, human relations. On that basis, actually, he also get done properly, and actually he also have got whatever kind of the very important the results as expected, because by having use of the ventilation therapy, the performances and the expectations whatever we had for the maximizing of the output has been ensured by that Hawthorne studies or the Alton Mayo, and that was his greatest success actually. Next, I'm actually continue. These studies gave the rise to the human relations theory of the organization, and when actually that comes, they have said instead of the formal structure, instead of the particular where you are considering humans as a material, we must have to focus over the human relation, their behavior. That was the first instance when actually a very great jolt to the discipline as a into the evolution of the, we can say, the public admission, the discipline have experienced a very great kind of the jolt. I'll just say the next. The important publications during this stage were challenge classical public administration were. So you know the very important thing I have seen, the very important thing during the third stage, a multiple number of the publications were started. whatever the publications has come, all the publications are completely focused and targeted only to challenge the principles and the theories whatever had delineated during the second stage in the particular public administration. So now what were the very important publications? Let's see, have a sneak look here. Chester Barnard, actually he wrote the functions of the executive in 1938. Similarly, okay, the next actually I say that is Mr. F.M. Marx. Okay, that is F.M. Marx have wrote one of the very important book that we called Elements of Public Admission in 1946. They also have given the criticism. Herbert Simon, he was actually is also called as the champions of the behavioral science. Herbert Simon have wrote the two books, in which one actually we call as the Proverbs of the Administration, which was published in 1946, and another that was the Herbert Simon's Administrative Behavior in 1947, in which he highly emphasized over the decision-making technique into the public administration or in any of the organizations. So let's see here how the criticism comes over here. The some of the very important books, if we include, that is the Robert Dahl. Robert Dahl actually is the prominent personality in the third stage, actually who, okay, we can say generally say a very important thing. Why does the particular public admission actually challenging and have no any kinds of the worth as a discipline of the science that he has, okay, completely explained in his book, and the book was named The Science of Administration, Three Problems, 1947. What were the three problems? We will discuss here. Next. Dwight Waldo have also published during that time the Administrative State in 1948. So these were actually a very important kind of the publications has been explained. So now one by one actually I am just going to discuss some of the very important personalities, how they do have, okay, treated and, okay, presented their challenges against the public admission of that time and the theories which were actually be found during that time in the public admission as a subject of the discipline. So I am just going with that of the Herbert Simon first. He was the most important critic of the principles of administration and described them as the proverbs. They say they are actually good to listen but have no worth of the application. The next thing, to quote the Simon, it means Simon have said, if any theory is involved, it is the decision making, is the heart of the administration, and that the vocabulary of the administrative theory must be derived from the logic and the psychology of the human choice. So he say throughout the organization, actually throughout the organization, the heart of the organization is actually we can say as of the decision making only. If we are having the decisions in the correct way, in the correct direction, that is the very enough to achieve the goal and accomplish the purpose. So that actually he say as of in his particular quote. Next, the Simon rejected to the idea of the politics administration dichotomy. That was the very important thing. Okay, so Simon have say the politics and administration dichotomy is completely rejected and recommended that the empirical approach to the study of the public administration. So what is actually he is speaking here? So he say the politics and administration never been possible to get actually separated. It is very much important. And secondly, he say a very important thing, that is empirical approach we must have to get inculcate into the studies of the public administration. Reason behind, because of the humans, their behavior. Until we are in the different situations, do not do the study of the behavior in the human aspect, it is not possible that actually public admission could have a scientific base. It's actually the relevancy of their theories. So that was the most important. I'm actually continuing here. Robert Dahl, as actually say, after the Herbert Simon, what actually he, okay, expressed his views of, apart from him, the Robert Dahl was also a very great, actually say, the personality who had directly challenged and also given the suggestions. Actually, we can say that was a kind of the constructive criticism placed by the Robert Dahl for that particular, during that third stage for the evolution of public admission as a science. What he said? Robert Dahl argued that evolution of a science of public administration was hindered by the three problems, and he suggested about the comparative studies. So great. So he say a very simple thing. Why did you are actually looking for the universality of the particular components or the particular features? Instead of that, do study the different kinds of the situations, different kinds of the circumstances, because it is very much important. Why the public administration I say? They are more likely to get actually affected by the outside environment. And accordingly, wherever the environment getting changed, public admission must have to be get changed accordingly. So in this way, he say it is better to go for the comparative studies. Okay, first of all, to identify the specific and unique features from the different kinds of the countries and different kinds of the administration, and then actually to identify their similarities and dissimilarities. And by this way, you can easily have the theories and the universality and the universal facts also. So that was a very great advocacy put just forward by the Robert Dahl, and that was a very great, actually we can say, the aspect has been discussed by him. Continue. The need to study certain aspects of the human behavior, he say, okay, which limit to the penalties of the science of public administration. So he say there are some of the part of the human behavior we have seen which going to be get actually develop a kind of the hindrance or the develop a kind of the limitations for the public admission to be a science. He criticized the regard human being that constitutes organization as more or less the material. So he say during whole of the classical time, actually whatever the scholars we have seen, they do have only treated humans in organization as a material, and they do completely neglected and ignored always to his behavioral part and their, actually we can say, the feelings and the lots of things whatever we generally must have to be get considered always to make our theories relevant. Next. So the Robert Dahl answered that we are long away a science of the public admission. No science of the public admission is possible unless. He say if even after you likely to make the public admission a science, there are the three problems. If you able to overcome from these three problems, if you are able to give the solution for these three problems, then definitely public admission going to be get established as a science. What does this? Actually he speak. So he say no science of public admission is possible unless, number one, the place of the normative values is made clear. Exactly. Next, the nature of the man in the area of the public admission is better understood and his conduct is more predictable. Next, and there is a body of the comparative studies from which it may be possible to discover principles and the generalities that transcend national boundaries and peculiar historical experiences. It is very much important. So actually he discussed about the three very important kinds of the actually problems, or we can say the three very important kind of the aspects which we must have to consider if we likely to make the public admission as a science. Number one, normative values. So normative values are what? So actually it is very much important. The values are the priorities. These are the preferences. These are the likeliness and the unlikeliness of the people. That is the kind of the feelings of the peoples. So until we are not able to get actually identify them, it is not possible that actually we can make the public admission as a science, because we are consistently neglecting that. Number two, he said nature of the man and the area of the public admission is better understood. The nature of the man is what? Actually the nature of the man is very simple. The humans and the man are unpredictable. It is not possible that actually just in an instance of the next, what he will do cannot be get have the predictions, and so that it is not possible until we are actually studying the humans in the public admission can be say as of the pure science. No way, it is not possible. So I'm very thankful to you, okay, just to listen to me here in that particular third stage of the public admission. Afterward, actually in the fourth stage, when actually we entering in that fourth stage, finally due to that challenges, multiple challenges by the different scholars during that stage going to be create a kind of the crisis of the identity for the subject. So we must have to do study in the next part of the same video about how the public admission face and address to those crisis conditions in the fourth stage. Thank you so much and take care. All the best. Bye-bye.